Manuela Gunza reporting. Well, the aircraft, a Boeing 737 MAX, was a relatively new model, and concerns have been raised about its safety systems. Our transport correspondent Tom Burridge has been taking a look.
Debris recovered in October when another Boeing 737 MAX went down off Indonesia. The crash raised questions about automatic computer systems on board the aircraft and whether pilots were properly informed about how the new plane had been modified. In the weeks after the crash, the authorities in America issued an emergency airworthiness directive about the 737 MAX. Investigators believe an automatic computer system designed to prevent the plane from stalling received incorrect data and put the plane into a nosedive. Boeing later issued a warning to airlines to ensure pilots were aware of an override switch to deactivate the system. Ryanair is due to start flying passengers on the 737 MAX from next month. It's Boeing's fast-selling, fuel-efficient short-haul plane. It only began commercial flights in 2017. Some 4,500 of the 737 MAX have been ordered by airlines worldwide.
The 737 MAX, which has been involved in the incident today, is the latest version of this aircraft. It's very important to Boeing as part of a portfolio of aircraft offered to airlines, and it's important to airlines because they want to build on the reliability of this model, and they want the 737 MAX because it offers much greater efficiency and payload capacity.
It's far too early to say what caused the Ethiopian Airlines flight to crash. Former and serving pilots I've spoken to say the crater and debris suggest it descended fairly vertically and at some speed. A modern aircraft crashing twice in 5 months is highly unusual. Airlines and passengers will want reassurance. Tom Burridge, BBC News.
Well, joining us now via webcam from West Sussex is Gideon Ewers, aviation consultant and pilot. Gideon, thank you for joining us this evening. How useful and reliable is it to draw comparisons with the Lion Air flight at this point?
At this point in time, it's a complete waste of time. The air accident investigation teams are only just now gathering at us and starting their work. It's going to be a long time before any meaningful results are drawn from that investigation. And so while it's tempting to get carried away and say, well, wait a minute, this has a lot of similarities with the Lion Air flight, it's also worth recalling that subsequent to that, the completion of that investigation, a lot of, as your reporter mentioned, airworthiness directives were issued about operating procedures and so on with the aircraft. So while it has a lot of similarities, there could well be other factors in play that we're just not aware of, and that will come out during the course of the investigation.
What's different about the 737 MAX compared with the original 737?
Well, quite a lot from the original 737, which first entered service in the late 1960s. What they did is Boeing have had three more iterations. MAX is the third iteration beyond that. Went over to the CFM engine, earlier model of the CFM engine modeled aircraft in the early 80s, followed up by the MGs, which came into the early noughties with a later CFM, and now the 73 MAX. A few years ago, Boeing had a choice with their narrow-body program whether they were going to go for something all new or squeeze a little bit more out of the 737 proven 737 airframe. And they chose the latter because they could get to market quicker to compete with their main competitor Airbus with their 320 Neo series. So they came to market squeezing a bit more, new engineering, slightly redesigned wing, a little bit longer, different winglets, improving the aerodynamics, improving the fuel efficiency for airlines.
Who will be involved in investigating this crash? What will the focus be on?
Well, the big thing, I benefited from some NTSB US NTSB training, and one of the first things we were told in the very first lecture is, no matter what you think you know, forget it. Go where the evidence leads you, and that's what these investigations teams will be doing. There'll be teams from the US NTSB because obviously it's a US designed and built aircraft. I expect there will also be teams from the French BEA because CFM is a French company, they build the engines, and they have an interest too. So they'll be working with their Ethiopian colleagues to assess the actual data, the actual evidence, both in the physical evidence and from the flight data and so on. And then they'll build that picture, but it will take months, in fact, 6 to 8 months before any meaningful conclusions will be drawn.
many more 737 Maxes are on order. How likely is it, do you think, that their use will be suspended, maybe temporarily, as a result of this crash?
I think it's unlikely in the short term, but it really rather depends on the outcome of the investigation. If some data crops up that shows there is a causal link between this and the Lion Air crash, then maybe that'll get the regulators moving rather quicker. But it just is impossible to say. They're not going to do it as a preemptive strike. They're going to wait and see what that evidence reveals before they make their next moves.
Gideon Ewers, aviation consultant and pilot, thank you for your time.
Not at all.